Hi, friends. Welcome to Pause with the people of Trinity United Church in Prince George, British Columbia. 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we pause to reflect on something going on in the world, something going on in our lives and the people we care about, and to ground all of that in prayer, seeking to enter more fully and deeply into a relationship with Holy Mystery. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about doing something that really we've been told not to do for almost 2 years. And that's get close enough to one another to touch one another. I'm borrowing on a piece from Rob Fennell's book around 31 spiritual practices. This one today is number 25. And it's entitled, In the Company of a Friend or Partner or Family Member. Touch. There's something about it. There's something about touching one another. Don't get me wrong, during a pandemic when we're not allowed to do it, that's okay. Zoom is fabulous, or whatever version of it you're using or have used. FaceTime is great. Phone calls are great. Emails and texts and emojis, they're all great. But there's nothing that quite takes the place of human touch. There's just something about it. Even if you're incredibly introverted, even if the idea of having someone touch you brings a degree of anxiety, my hunch is there's at least one person, or maybe it's only 2 or 3 people, for whom touch for you and them, for you to them and from them, is very important. There's just something about that person when they lay their hand on your shoulder or give you a hug that just helps you realize things are going to be okay. Or that just brings you fully into that moment and presence. Kind of allows you to push all the noise of life aside and focus on that reality. That's the power of touch. It's interesting to me that if you think back to the beginnings of the pandemic, one of the very first things that happened as we went into lockdowns and people went into isolation was folks were creating these kind of hug walls that were safe and had a barrier between them, but so that grandparents and grandkids or children and parents, so neighbors could give one another a hug, right? It often had a pair of sleeves on each side, big sheet of plastic down someone's laundry line outdoors, and you'd walk up to it, stick your hands in, and somebody would do the same on the other side, and you'd lean in and give one another a hug, completely encapsulated in plastic, with plastic in between you, and plastic on your arms, on your hands, but you still had that sense of touch. You could still feel someone's heartbeat. You could still feel their warmth. Even with the plastic between you, you could still have a sense of that living, breathing, God-created person reaching out and touching you. So I invite you to do this spiritual practice at some point in the next 24 to 48 hours. However it is you're able to do it. The whole point is to take time to be physically present and together. No agenda, just to be. Let that moment and that touch be the richness and meaning in that moment. So here's what Rob suggests we do. In a gentle and appropriate way, offer a simple touch to someone you are close to. A handshake, a hug, a touch on the shoulder or arm. As you do so, say a quiet word of thanks to the source of life for bringing this particular person, this person with whom you are in physical contact with, into your life. As best as you can, do more listening in this encounter than speaking. Ask questions about how they are doing, how things are going, where they have been dreaming about. This moment is not one for accomplishing something, but simply for the goodness of enjoying one another's company. This is the blessing in and of itself. There is nothing specific to do or be right now. Be present and focus on this moment. It is good in and of itself, and it helps to sustain you both for the long journey of life. I'm going to repeat those instructions from Rob one more time for us before we spend some time in prayer. So here it is. In a gentle and appropriate way, offer a simple touch to someone that you are close to. It could be a handshake, a hug, a touch on the shoulder or arm. As you do so, say a quiet word of thanks to the source of life for bringing this person, this specific person, with whom you are in contact. Give thanks for bringing them into your life. And as you have some conversation, as best as you can, try to spend more time listening than speaking. You might want to ask questions about how they're doing, how things are going, what they have been dreaming about or thinking about doing. This moment it's not about accomplishing anything. There is no agenda. It's just to simply enjoy the goodness of one another's company. This is the blessing. This is the prayer. There is nothing specific to do or be right now, other than fully rooted and connected and present to this sacred moment that you're both sharing. So be present and focus on the now, on this moment. It is good in and of itself, and it will help sustain you and the other person for the long journey of life. Friends, let's gather together in prayer. Holy One, we give you thanks for those who are physically close enough in our lives that we can reach out and touch them. We give you thanks for their presence, for the way it shapes us and molds us, challenges us and comforts us. We give you thanks for their touch, for the love it can represent, the understanding, the care, the compassion. We give you thanks for those who are familiar enough to us that we allow them to touch us. Those sometimes fleeting moments when everything that separates us collapses into one moment, one embrace, one handshake, one hand on the shoulder or arm. Help us to remember that we are people who crave, who need to be touched. People who need that sense of comfort. People that need that sense of grounding, that sense of connection. Help us to be that loving touch for others in our lives. Help us to reach out and connect with one another, to be grounded in the moments we create with one another. And in so doing, help us to be fully present with one another. And so this evening we again pause. We think about all the times that touch has been misused. All the times that permission has been assumed and never sought. All the times that touch moves away from being loving and becomes violent and damaging and destructive. Help us to use touch in a way that brings comfort and peace and solace, that helps people know they are loved and valued and included and affirmed, that enables us to be present and grounded and aware. And in so doing, help us to receive the blessing of touch. Amen. Friends, thanks again for joining with us here at Trinity United Church in Prince George, British Columbia. We do this 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It's an opportunity to pause, reflect, pray. We hope that wherever it is you find yourself in this moment, it's a place where you can be safe, be calm, and be community. Together, let's invest in the common good and common health of one another. And let's offer that human connection of touch in appropriate and safe ways, so that together we might ground one another in what God is doing all the time. That's it for now. We'll see you again next time for Pause.